So part 5 is going to be an introduction to WQX Web online submission tool. And let's just we're kind of getting short on time here. I know we only have about 30 minutes left. So I'm just going to jump right into it here. We have WQX Web uses the EPA Central Data Exchange, CDX, to ensure a secure data submission. That was reviewed by Charles and Laura earlier. WQX Web assists users in submitting their data to Storet, and via WQX it creates an XML file from your CSV or TXT file. It is designed to work with Microsoft Excel, which is an example that Excel template that we just went over. It allows flexibility for data management and submissions through custom import configurations. Like I had mentioned before, even though we have that WQX Web template, you do not have to use that template format. You can create your own custom import configuration, which I will show in a little bit. And then finally, it enables you to validate data submissions and resolve errors. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Let me just make sure there's nothing else to say. I'm going to hop into WQX Web. If you have your own login, feel free to just follow along as I just kind of talk through it. If not, you can definitely take a gander and see what I'm doing. But the login is, the HTTP cdx.epa.gov. But that is a link that you'll have once you get your CRK from WQX Web Storet Help Desk, and they'll guide you through it and give you the appropriate link once you have registered for WQX Web. So let me show you what it looks like. So we have this is that website that we were just talking about. It's the basic login page, user ID, password, and I obviously have those. So I'm going to log into CDX. And there's one extra step. So, there's a lot of different online services provided by the EPA. WQX is just merely one of them. So you'll have to actually select which service you want to use, and that's obviously going to be WQX Web. So you'll click on that link, and it will load the application into your browser. And here we are. So welcome to WQX Web. It is not as overwhelming as you may think it is. So there are a couple key areas that we are going to be working in WQX Web, especially in this preliminary stage. The first being, obviously enough, import configurations. We need to create or utilize an existing import configuration to work with your data sets. And then create new data sets is where you basically navigate to actually import the file that you're ready to submit to WQX. And that's a topic that we are going to talk in great lengths next week. This week being import configurations, and next week is actually the submission and validating of the results in WQX Web. Data sets is essentially where you can go and view the status of your current imports. Is it still importing? Is it done importing? Did the import fail? Do I still have errors? Was it successfully submitted? And so on. Now, lookup tables is your second #1 resource. Lookup tables, I'm actually going to go ahead and click in there. If you are confused about any of the terminology or, what nomenclature do I need to use for this particular characteristic or analytical method or or county or anything, container type, sample collection methods, metric types, or anything you can think of. These are all of the tables of different specific values in WQX Web, and this will be your reference. This is your basically the index to WQX terminology. So I'll just do a quick example. Let's say that I am sampling for nitrates, and I'm like, well, I know it's a specific type of nitrate. Let me see what my selection is. You can literally click on this characteristic link. It'll say, characteristic name, and you only have to type in a partial search. So I can just do I don't even have to put the E at the end of nitrate just to kind of drive home the point as to the behavior of this. Nitrate without an E still brings up all of the nitrates, but you can see that, okay, it was inorganic nitrogen, which is nitrate and nitrite, whereas in my data set, it might have said it without the parentheses. So it's little nuances like that, tables to reference, what is in my data set and what does WQX Web expect. Now, I want you to hold off on any questions about, my data set says this, what can WQX Web do? Because next week we're going to go into what's called translations, and that's more about showing off the flexibility of the WQX Web tool to actually work with your data set and vice versa. But if you're just starting out, this is a great reference, and I use this every day, these lookup tables, because even for myself, it's impossible to remember every single different nuance about the specific terminologies. So lookup tables, a great resource. Projects. This essentially lets you query and search on what projects you have in WQX Web. Monitoring locations is much the same. It allows you to view and see what monitoring locations you currently have in WQX Web. Activities, back on that point of having a distinguishable activity, it will be terribly difficult to find a specific set of activities within this query unless you actually have data that has a recognizable activity ID. And I am going to see what the WQX testers have in here. Just to give you an example, what happens whenever you search on your organization, there's obviously a lot of activities, and for WQX test, it's taking a little bit to load up. But while that does that, okay, it's refreshing. So you can see here, we have a fairly distinguishable activity ID. We have the monitoring location, the date, and then it is a laboratory measurement, or it is an L, but it says field measurement. It's a data logger. I guess that's the L. So again, you can see that not everyone uses the format that I'm speaking of, but there are different ways of going about making an effective activity ID. So going down, activity groups, something that many of you will not brush on, is not required in WQX Web, but it's just an additional way for organizations to group certain activity IDs together under the same project. So it doesn't happen very often. Usually whenever you have a group of activities that you want to separate from another set of activities, it's generally most appropriate to just have a separate project. But again, this is just another flexible aspect of WQX Web in that you can create these activity groups to further distinguish your data. Results. The results link, obviously enough, just gives you just that, gives you the results. And I'll show you what that looks like. WQX tests, just click search. And so while this is loading, let me just give a quick overview of this search criteria up here. You're going to see a lot of repetition in all of these pages. The search criteria looks very similar throughout. Now, the only aspect that is required is that you select an organization ID, but you're going to see that I'm leaving everything blank here. And these blanks essentially indicate that I want to include everything. It's true with any other search you do. If you don't select anything, if you're looking through Craigslist or you're looking through any other type of classified, if you leave the field blank but you populate the required ones, it's not going to filter down on anything. But let's say I wanted to get really specific. You have the ability to filter by your projects. You can filter by specific results only within a certain set of monitoring locations. And heck, you can even type in a partial activity ID and obtain the results that you're looking for. Indexes are something that many will not go into. Getting hung up on these results because I know that there's a ton of results under WQX test, so it's kind of spinning on me right now. But I clicked on indexes. This is an area where many will not be using that. If you are going to utilize indexes, let us know and we will walk through that with you. The event log is another area it's to basically check on the status of a current submission that you successfully sent off to WQX. Organizations will just have a list of the organizations you have access to, and that is just, it gives you the ability to, if you are managing multiple organization IDs, You can click on them and edit any of the information. It's kind of another conditional area. Let me continue on here. And then users is going to just be your user ID, what your address is, your phone number, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is a button that you will not have just because I am an administrator. So just to kind of summarize WQX Web and its the navigation throughout it, is you can see that all of the pages you're trying to view are located directly on this left-hand menu. Now, whenever you get your WQX Web login, please don't hesitate to go in and click around, experiment with different queries, try to find some results. If you don't have results, work on your import configurations. If you don't have any import configurations, take a look at the template. Just familiarize yourself with the format, the layout of WQX Web, and that itself will give you a greater understanding as to just what this tool does and how it works with your data to submit successfully to WQX.